Yeah, fair drink 'em.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Interview with a Homebrewer, the series that has got all of the homebrewers watching and chinwagging around the world. We've got people watching from Australia, obviously, the US, the UK, and even France. So thank you to everyone who has tuned into all of the previous episodes so far. And this episode and guest is no exception to that. It's Mike from Bitter Reality Brewing over in America, specifically Florida. Thank you for joining me and your time today slash this afternoon so far. And my first question for every guest is, what is your earliest memory of homebrewing? Please be sure to always drink responsibly. That includes, but is not limited to, having an alternate way home if you are drinking while out, never drinking with alcohol in your system, have water or non-alcoholic beverages in between each drink because you don't want to turn a night out into a nightmare.
Thanks for having me on. Seen a few videos. I need to watch all of them, but earliest, and this is what's funny because somebody else did ask me this very recently. As of December 14th of this year, I've been brewing for 10 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
the first beer I brewed was a 1 gallon pale ale,
One
all
gallon.
grain.
That's a pretty small brew.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and it was a pale ale, and it was 1 gallon because to me it was a low investment, and it was
Mhm.
something I would drink.
And how did it turn out for you?
It was decent. It was drinkable, but it wouldn't have been something I ordered.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And so, as you said, it was 10 years ago, almost to the date that you
Mhm.
started homebrewing. What got you into homebrewing?
Shockingly, I'm one of those weird people who likes to make everything. I'm the person that my in-laws who don't drink say they would grab me first if we had an apocalypse. But I've made soap, kombucha, sauerkraut, pickles. I like trying to make things, but most of the things
Yep.
I do it and I move on. This
Yeah.
one, I was curious. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I really wasn't looking for a new hobby. It was more of a just, can I do this?
Okay. And then obviously you got sucked into the rabbit hole as almost every homebrewer does.
I
And
got
so,
hooked. I got hooked on my second brew, which I think everybody will find interesting, and maybe it helps you if you're thinking about getting into brewing, get you hooked.
mhm.
I bought 2 gallon Hefeweizen, but I only
Okay.
had 1 gallon jugs, so I brewed it and put it in two 1 gallons, and I didn't
Split
know what to
batch,
do.
technically, sort of thing.
A split batch, yeah, even though it's the same exact beer, same
Yep.
everything, or same wort. But
Yep.
I lived in an apartment at the time. We were getting ready to buy another house, and I stuck one in my pantry and one in my bedroom closet, even though the wife didn't know. And I shot it. And actually, I got one of these, not the same one, but I was shooting it with one of these little temperature things
Yep.
every day and writing
Yep.
it down. And I knew about it. We had talked just before we started, was temperature control, but I didn't understand that it had to stay that temperature. I thought it was an average.
Yep.
And the one in the closet was 3 degrees cooler, and the one in the pantry in the kitchen was 3 degrees warmer.
Hmm.
Well, the one in the kitchen, I opened it when it was ready and I bottled it. It had, when it was carbonated, it had a nice smell, great aroma. Wasn't all that smooth. It was very rough.
Hmm.
The one from the bedroom closet did not have the aroma, did not have as much clove, but it was super smooth. And I'm like,
Oh,
dude, this is cool. I like this.
yeah. That's a
I
really,
got, that's when I kind of got hooked.
yeah. Okay. Wow, that's really, really cool to hear that the chalk and cheese differences, you could say that literally 3 degrees difference makes. And so therefore temperature control is paramount next to sanitization and of course brain fighting hard water quality. And
Yeah, th
so
three
my
degrees of separation was kind of
yeah,
my reason for getting into it. And then not to go long, but
no, go for it.
I had some heart problems that I'd had my whole life and didn't know I had them. They were electrical. I'd had a heart surgery and was good for 15 years. And suddenly, as I got into brewing, I started having major problems. And the wife hates the smell of beer. She can smell it from a mile away. And
Yep.
she's like, I can't stand this hobby you have. She goes, but you seem to be relaxed and you seem to be able to deal with the stress you didn't know you already had. She goes, so you know what? I think you need to keep doing this.
Yep.
And yeah, that kind of reinforced it.
Yeah, no, that's
A
good.
supportive
And
wife who can't stand beer.
yeah, well, my fiance, she doesn't drink, not because she's sober, but because she has epilepsy and a lot of other things
Oh,
going on. But yeah, she bought me my first fermenter as an anniversary gift
wow.
this year. So yeah, she's like, as long as you don't get too drunk every night or anything like that, go for it.
Yeah, my
And
wife
now,
only bought me a bottling tree
yep.
and this.
Well, the fermenter, it was the oh, that's really cool. But like, the fermenter was just a Cooper's fermenter kit that you can get from, your local grocery store in Australia. But, it
Here
did
they're
the
about a
job.
hundred bucks. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah, well, this come with a box of 16 PET bottles, carbonation drops, a spoon, that sort of stuff, a tin of extract, and it was about $70 Australian.
Okay.
But then I moved very quickly. I'm talking within a month and a half, I had that and 5 HDPE fermenters, 25 liters, 30 liters, that sort of thing. And now I've got two pressure fermenters, not stainless steel. They're the Apollos from Keg King currently. One's conical, one's the chubby. So I'll be doing a review of that soon. But this is not about me. This is about yourself, Mike.
No, it's all
And
good. I can relate. I started with when I got excited, I went and bought, I know it sounds much smaller than yours, but I bought 12 1 gallon
mm,
fermenters, little 1 gallon jugs, just so I could
yep,
try every hop and every malt and do one
yeah, no.
gallons and learn.
And, well, I mean, and that way you're also not overcommitting either, with because you've only got the 1 gallon. It's not like you've spent so much time and energy,
Or
and
money.
even I was literally about to say and money into it as well. Um, yeah, and then I was lucky enough to my local homebrew shop hooked me up with a lot of things going on um in the grand scale of things. They gave me discounts, they matched Kegland prices because I live about 12 hours drive away from Kegland, Australia. So
Wow.
yeah, so I mean it's nothing compared to living in America away from Kegland, Australia. But you know he was like, right, I'll price match Kegland and whatever the price of postage from them would be, sort of thing, rather than paying the homebrew shop price, which is really good. This episode is made possible by the Ultimate Homebrew Shop, located at 7 Kirrawee Road, Gosford, and also online. If you're based on the central coast of New South Wales or you're looking for an alternate to Kegland or Keg King, head to the Ultimate Homebrew in store or online. They have over 40 years of homebrewing and distilling knowledge amongst the staff and a vast array of equipment and products that will be sure to have what you need. Tell them Fair Drink and Brew sent you and they'll look after you. Righty. And so my next question for you, Mike, is what have been the three biggest learning curves you've made in your brewing journey? I would say mistakes, but as long as you learn from them, then they're not mistakes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say first I would joke and I would say fermentation temperature control. Not this, but
Mm-hmm.
this times
Mm-hmm.
three, but we'll just leave that at one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of the problems I've learned, and I'm getting better and better at it, but I'm OCD, which I think everybody is to some degree, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely ADHD. So
Yep.
I'll get up 7, 8 in the morning to brew, and by noon or one, I actually start.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
don't overcomplicate don't overcomplicate your brew day and
Mm-hmm.
stop overthinking it. I do it all the time. That's number two because it kind of goes hand in hand with not overcomplicating and not overthinking it because you will. And it gets bad. And then my third one is actually brewing salts.
Mm-hmm.
Because brewing salts to me seem like this giant mountain I would never climb.
Mm-hmm.
And I still haven't climbed it. Instead, I'm on the nice small mountain or the baby mountain because I learned enough about brewing salts to take advantage of them. And then I use a program called Beersmith that a lot of us use.
Yep.
And I simply go and I put in the profiles and I research each profile to find out what the best profile is from the experts who've been doing this longer than me. And I choose one. And if I don't like it, I might adjust it in the next one and I may, keep it or go back. But brewing salts can be really easy if you use a program that already has the things and all you do is put in your water and go, I want this. This is what I need to add. Done.
Yep. Oh, it's honestly so simple. And another one that you could say that's so like a great resource online is obviously Brewer's Friend. Now, in particular, Brewer's Friend is the actual ABV calculator on there. A lot of people I find in Facebook groups and forums asking, how do I calculate my ABV from original gravity to final gravity? And there is a method. Absolutely, there is a method. And it's quite easy once you learn it. But if you don't want to have to do all those calculations, or you don't want to put the time, you don't have the time to figure it out, or if you're not smart enough, because that's not a bad
You're
thing either.
lazy. I just bring up the calculator.
Exactly. That's exactly what I do. I'm lazy as heck. So I have it as a bookmark on my computer and I just go straight to that. I put in the OG and the final gravity and boom, that tells me the ABV. It's so simple. The link will be in the description for that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And so my next question, obviously you've brewed a lot of styles over the last 10 years. So what's your favorite style of beer to brew, or one that you find yourself always going back to?
Um, and it's not just YouTube really likes this one a lot, but it's for me, it's the creativity. And I know somebody's gonna go, but IPAs. There are so many variations of IPAs. There are so many sub styles, from red IPA, rye IPA, black IPA, West Coast, East Coast, so cold IPA now, brewed IPA. But the big thing is that you have your variations, you have your hops, your malts. There's so many things you can do because you're really going crazy or, late hop, early hop. And for me, I just love a really good, and my joke I always tell people is I love a good West Coast IPA, cold and bitter, like some of the people we know.
Yep. That's great. Now that's awesome. And obviously my next question is that your favorite style to drink? And if not, what is your favorite style to drink?
Actually, if I go into a place that doesn't have much of a selection, yes.
Mm-hmm.
If I go into a place that really, really has a wide selection, I'm kind of crazy because in a good example, I was in Chicago recently and we went to a nice little restaurant slash brew pub and they had a long list of beers. But I saw things like, Farmhouse. I'm trying to remember the first one I had and it wasn't an IPA, but if you say alt beer, I stop you there and just order the alt beer.
Yeah.
Anything with rye, saisons, country ales, or anything exotic. Like we have a local brewery that does an amazing job working with other breweries,
Mm-hmm.
and they did a Thai spiced influenced
Mm-hmm.
sour. And I'm not a big sour fan. I like modest sours, but it had basil and all these. It was just amazing. Very
Yeah, wow.
expensive, but very, very good.
Yeah. Wow,
I like the
that's interesting.
creativity more, but if I have nothing else to pick from, I will go with an IPA, sadly.
Yeah, fair enough. Which I mean, when in doubt, IPA is you can't go wrong. It's really hard to, pardon my language, fuck up an IPA
Yeah,
as it's just
especially
as
commercially.
yes, exactly, exactly. And speaking of obviously fucking up or really good brewing, etc. What brew have you most recently done, and how is it tracking?
I'm kind of laughing right now because as I mentioned, I went to Chicago recently and was also going to a home brew company. So for content for my channel, I was trying to get a bunch done all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I did two flash brews, which you've probably seen from a company over here called More Beer that does, it's an extract type beer.
Uh-huh.
Those are now carbonating. They're done fermenting. When I got back from my trip,
Mm-hmm.
all I had to do is move them before I got back. Before I left, I moved them and started carbonating. And now that I got home, they're not quite done, but they're getting there. I did a Vienna lager as an
Mm-hmm.
ale, and that was all grain. And I did the one I'm actually drinking now because it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Pinter Brewdog Punk IPA, which, like I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of Brewdog's beer. I love the people. I think they're funny and everything, but the the clone is better than the stuff in the can. So
Hmm. That's that's really interesting. And tangenting really quickly back into, you just mentioned your content segues perfectly into my next question, believe it or not, which is your content is available on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook under Bitter Reality Brewing. So, first of all, how did that all come about? And also the naming of Bitter Reality Brewing as well.
I really like this question because no one's really asked me in the detail that you're asking me. Um, First of all, YouTube, yes, 100%. Instagram, Facebook, I'm sorry, I'm a slacker and I don't keep it up. Occasionally I'll get on there and start getting it caught up again, or I'll get some cool photos and put them on there. Um, I'm not a teenage girl. I have problems doing social media as much as they do. They live and breathe it more than I am. I'm an old guy who enjoys brewing, and I share my mistakes just as well as my successes. The biggest thing about YouTube was I had gotten brewing and I started thinking about doing it. And it probably went almost 2 years of me thinking about doing it. And I just simply want to share because I was in a home brew club, but I felt like I was being judged at the time and I really didn't ask anyone for help. So I would go on and research and read. And I didn't even watch YouTube that much. I was reading more before I got onto YouTube. And I found Pierre from Simple Home Brewing,
Mm-hmm.
Gavin, and a few other home brewers over here in US. And without question, Pierre was my inspiration. And I even told him, and I've told him on multiple occasions, to finally just start the channel, even though I wasn't ready. Because the joke is, you'll never be ready. It's like waiting
No.
to have kids. You're
Yeah.
never really ready.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. I've got a bub on the way due late January, early February, and I mean, we're as ready as we can be, but again, never ready. So continue.
Yeah, you're never ready. Now as for the name, I actually had the name probably about 6 to 8 months after I started brewing, in my head, because I had to put a label on my beer for my friends that I was trying to share it with, and I just came up with the name. I was a DJ in the late 80s, early 90s for 5 years in radio and nightclubs. And I'm huge into the 80s and 90s music, primarily 80s, early 90s. And there was a movie that you may or may not remember called Reality Bites. Came out around
Mhm.
1994, I think. Winona Ryder, Renee Zellweger, a lot of great actors and stuff. But I love that movie. And it's not my favorite movie, but that name of that movie kind of went. So, of course, bitter being a beer, reality from Reality Bites, and then brewing because it's brewing. And then the last part, which you may not know and most people don't catch, is if you've seen my
Mhm.
logo has beer
Or it has.
styles.
I did notice that absolutely.
Yep.
One notably more so was wheat was the one I caught
Probably
onto in the
wheat,
back of it.
stout. There's a few in there. The bigger you see it, and I don't usually
Yep.
use a very big one, so you don't always see the full size. But if you see the poster or the headline for Reality Bites, they did that, but instead it was like love, friendship, and all those things in the same
Ah,
effect.
that's a nice real like homage to them without. That's not the least egg. I love that. Wow.
Yeah, my wife helped
Um.
me with it, and yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. And obviously back on the topic of the content. Um. You've been doing content for a while now, and how have you found the journey of doing the content? And what was the original intent and purpose for the content? Because for me, it was I never intended to do interview with a homebrew. I just thought of the idea as a content filler. But I also thought, at the original idea for my channel was, you know, a video diary to log how I go, from my first brew to 10 years down the line to see so I can visually see how I've improved, which
Um,
is still the goal. And so what
yeah.
was your goals?
I only really had two goals. And I've learned there's also some things in there that will help you. And I tell people all the time, even if you're not going to get on YouTube, record yourself, because a year
Mm-hmm.
later you can't remember what you document it, and you go back and watch it and go, hey, that's why I did it.
Yep.
Um, but one was because I didn't really get anyone to help me. Even though I do act like an extrovert, I'm an introvert by heart.
Very much
So
so.
I don't
Same.
really like, yeah, I don't want to bother people, especially when, I just don't. So my first thing was to share my journey, kind of like you, and hope that it helps somebody out there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, which I was doing crazy amounts of it, even off camera, was experimenting. And I wanted to see what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that. And then I just started doing some of those experiments, and I need to get back to that. And I find that those videos do either really well or really badly. But at the end of the day, I don't really care. The one thing I will say
Because
I
you're having
learned.
fun with the experimenting.
Exactly. And if one person enjoys it, then great, or benefits from it, then great. And I don't care about the other people who want to, get mad at me. I will tell you, if you get in there, you will get the trolls, you will get the what I call the goldfish that acts like the shark and wants to eat you.
Yep.
But you will also get a few people when you first, and that's when you first start. You'll still get them down the road a little bit here and there, but very minor, and you learn how to deal with them. Um, but you will also get the people who jump in and say, look, your audio and video need a little help, but let me just tell you audio is critical and let me help you with your audio. Or hey, don't do this or do that, or hey, like I just said, check. And I used to edit all the ums out for a while. Now I don't as much, and I don't edit them out.
I
But
don't edit any, just for reference, with these episodes, I don't edit a single thing. I only add things in, such as the intro theme or the sponsor messages. I do
yep,
as it happens and as it's said is what people see, because I
yep.
cannot be bothered to edit out the ums, and it also
I
removes the
I put
authenticity
out
of
I
it.
put out a lot of what I call filler videos, which might be good videos and they might be great videos, but the less I edit, the more they're a filler because I don't have to waste my time editing the hell out of them like a brew day.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, Brute is insane editing. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, yeah.
but yeah, that would be the big thing from the name and social media. And I hope to do better with Instagram and I hope to do better with Facebook, but I've been saying that for a few years.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair enough. 1 second. Pardon me.
Yeah,
So my next
YouTube is my
question.
primary.
Yeah, no, that's honestly fair enough. YouTube's my primary, obviously, for videos,
But
and then I
and
just
and for
and then I share the videos onto Facebook groups and whatnot.
for you and the viewers for entertainment, when I went up to Blickman Engineering and Anvil Brewing recently, Barbecue Larry was there. And I guess he told the public about us being there, but I'm on YouTube, I can't find it. I'm on Facebook, I can't find it. I can't find it anywhere. Somehow he posted a photo in YouTube. And the only reason I found it was somebody mentioned me in content.
Yeah, wow. I didn't even know you could post photos on YouTube.
He did somehow.
I mean, they've probably got a section. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, that's definitely something to look into. But I don't know if I want to. Right, yeah. My next question: what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given about home brewing?
Um, uh, Best piece of advice I was giving, which I wish it was the fermentation temperature control, but it was actually keep it clean, keep it clean, keep it clean, keep it clean. And even though they tell you anything that is going to touch your beer after you boil, you should. I just clean everything.
Yep.
And the viewers, that was the biggest thing. If I edited out me washing something or cleaning something, they would
They'll
go
call you out
off.
in the comments, being like, "You
Yeah,
didn't
if
clean."
I rinsed my hands and barely brushed something and went back to touch something, they would call me out.
Yep.
So, yeah, I got that from everyone and everywhere.
Yep. Well, that's it. My rule of thumb in my head is if I think I've sanitized or sprayed it with Star San enough, spray a few more sprays more. Always. Like
Oh,
it's just a yep. Exactly. Always. Honestly, sanitization. But there's also a big difference between cleaning it and sanitizing it. You know, clean
yes.
it first, then sanitize it. You've got to make sure that you do both, not just the sanitize. Unless it's of say you've example yeast packet. You know, you've brought it out of the fridge, then of course just spray it. You don't need to clean it. There's a difference, but you know your actual brewing equipment, clean it and then sanitize it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually, something I just heard about recently that blew my mind because it's so obvious you don't realize it is that when you grind your grains, if you're gonna, crush your grains, there is more than in what's in the air. There is natural lactic bacteria on all your grains.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, that's up in a dust in the air, and you're doing the brewing, and then you're dumping it into your fermenter, and you're probably getting lots of that in there too.
Yep. Yeah, it's honestly, it's almost like homebrewing is like the whole process, not anyone in particular, is just set up to make you fail. So therefore,
Yes.
you're trying to beat all of these elements and to create a good brew, and you
Yeah,
know
and
we all
and and I
managed
would
to
like
do
to
that.
apologize for everybody that we all tell it's about the process. Just keep doing it, you'll get better. But it really is, and sadly, you got to learn the bits and pieces of the process.
Yes, and unfortunately, you got to make some mistakes, but learning curves as long as you learn from them. And so, therefore, my
Yes.
next question is: what are three bits of advice you would give to new and fresh homebrewers?
First one, which irritates me to the point I almost did a April Fool's joke about brewing a beer and drinking it within 60 seconds. Um,
Yep,
is don't rush the brew day.
trust the
Don't
process.
rush your fermentation. Take your time, enjoy the process. Uh, I just, and especially new brewers, sometimes, hey, how fast after I brew it can I drink it? And I'm like, you're thinking about this all wrong. You
Yeah,
need to stop.
yep.
Um,
Ideally, on a
Fermentation
on a good
control.
a quick
Yeah.
brew for me is a 14-day ferment. That's a quick
Yes.
brew for myself. Yeah,
Yes. Mine are usually about a week to 2 weeks, and on average, they're probably just over a week and a half.
yeah, yeah. I go about between 9 to 14 days, depending on the brew,
Yes.
and then put it into the keg, CO2 carbonated across 2 to 3 days, and then let it condition for about a week or two after that, and then I cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, what's your
I
next
tell
one?
everybody 2 weeks for fermentation, 2 weeks for conditioning. And I will tell you, you can quick carb, but it's not the same as letting it carb over 2 weeks. It just seems to be more suspension, better
Yep.
bubbles.
Don't get me wrong, I
Um,
do definitely do a pour on each, as in on once it's in the keg before I've put the CO2 in it. I mean, to carbonate it. I mean, like just that way it's
yeah.
a flat, so, and then I take a photo of it. Then I take a photo of it a week after being in the keg, and then 2 weeks after being in the keg. Just to check the clarity and also to check the carbonation as well.
Yes. Yes. My other one would be basically brew what you want to drink, even if it doesn't exist. Um,
Find a way to figure
Everything
it
I
out. Yeah.
brew, I drink. I don't brew for fun and just dump it or give it away. I do give away most of it because I'd be a sleeping drunk, but brew what you're going to enjoy. My first 5 gallon brew was somebody gave me an expired 565 White Labs yeast,
Mhm.
and I decided that I had never seen a raspberry ginger saison. And I'd never had a saison I liked at the time because I didn't care for plain saisons. I learned at that after I brewed that I like fruited saisons more, although DuPont saison's pretty damn good.
Yep.
Um, but I brewed that in my living room with a cloth covering it at room temp, and it was the first big beer I ever brewed, and it came out amazing by pure luck because it was a
Yep.
saison. It was more forgiving.
Yep.
Love that beer, and I brewed it every year for a while, and then me and Pierre did a collab.
Hmm.
He brewed it, I brewed it, and it has a little hint of rye. He learned he hates rye.
Yeah.
I learned it's not the same beer if it's keg conditioned. It has to
Mm.
be bottle conditioned. It tastes and just it's just so much better bottle conditioned. I don't know why. It
Wow.
just was.
Okay, that's very
But and then
interesting.
the last one, of course, is, and I'll go a little deeper with it, but fermentation control is definitely the third piece of advice, if not the biggest one.
Hmm.
Because my joke is you can have a bad brew day, screw up your whole brew, forget to add something, add too much of something,
And
just
it's the
screw it
best beer
all the
you've
way
ever
up.
done.
Yeah, but if you ferment it correctly at the right temp, it still will taste good. It just won't be the beer you intended it to be. It
Yep.
might be better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
So yeah, that brew what you want to drink and don't rush it, and temperature control, temperature control, temperature control.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And clean water. Um,
Yes,
now,
yes. And that, my thing, don't waste your whole day. And I don't know how you are in Australia, but here where I live, certain neighborhoods, you can smell the bleach coming out of the tap. Don't use crappy
yeah.
water if you want a good beer. Start with good water.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It varies obviously depending where you are in the country. Luckily, my town water profile is very soft and very decent apparently for brewing. But I still run. Well, I was recently gifted a reverse osmosis filter, a two-stage RO filter. But before that, I was still running an inline carbon filter regardless. That
Mhm.
way, I was still filtering the water. Um, and before that, I was spending stupid amount of money on containers, 10-liter containers
Or standing
of
in line at the grocery store to get them in the first place, which is a pain. But and on your
yep.
RO, add a deionizer, and instantly you have clean water with nothing in it. I'm lucky. I'm allergic to bleach or
Yep.
chlorine, and I can smell it really well. And even if I drink it, it just tears my stomach up.
Ooh. Yeah. Fuck. So you'll be able to if you've got you know a homebrew mate that's nearby and they brew with the town water, you'll be able to tell them in their brew that you didn't use filtered water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it shows in the beer quite a bit. It's
Mm.
nasty.
Yeah, wow. My next question for you, it's kind of piggybacking off the last few questions. What do you know now about homebrewing that you wish you knew when you started?
Um, I kind of joked about this is
Yep.
I knew about temperature control, but I thought that meant average.
Yep.
I
Like
never
between 2 to 3 degrees, not specific
yeah,
degree.
or even 5 degrees, as long as the average was a certain temp.
Yep.
And what's messed up is that if you don't have good temperature control, you'll be taking your temperature readings every day around the same time instead of where it's a little warmer, a little cooler in maybe your garage or wherever you are.
Hmm.
Um, it is all about keeping it as tight as possible. I use a glycol system now, which very expensive. Do not recommend for everybody because it was expensive. But if you want
Yep.
to make your beer the best beer ever, I'm usually within 1 degree plus and minus, and it just the best beer I've ever made because of it,
Wow.
or the most
That
consistent. I won't say the best, the most consistently good beer.
okay. Well, that's good to know and noted for myself and the audience. My next question is we're getting to the final three questions. What are your two favorite hops to use and in general?
Um, I got a couple, but I don't want to leave the New Zealand people out. But
Okay.
Chinook and Centennial are, of course, my favorites because when I first started learning about craft beer before I started brewing it, I learned I liked Chinook a lot. And so
Hmm.
I would look for beers that said Chinook on them or grapefruit and resin. And then I started liking Centennial. So those are my two favorites. But it's funny because I rarely use them because I feel like I've used them too much personally. So I try
Okay.
other ones and I like to try new things. Pacific Jade and Wahiti, plus many other New Zealand hops. Like there's too many. I really like a lot, and I was on a big kick with 1 gallons when I was doing smash beers to learn the hops that I just really liked them a lot. Pacific Jade is not as common or as easy to get over here on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Um, in Chinook and Centennial were part of the seven C's that everybody seemed to like a lot. But yeah,
Nice. And obviously, the opposite of that. What are your two least favorite hops in general and to use?
well, other than
Like,
my
is
freezer
there a
being full of hops,
oh,
and I probably have another 4 or 8 ounces of this one. There is a hop from Yakima Valley hops that not everybody may know about called anchovy hops.
oh, that just sounds grim.
Yeah, I want to
I
say it
hope
was
it's
like
not because it tastes like anchovies, please.
no, no, they
Okay.
just gave it a very bad name, and they also gave another one Sasquatch, which I haven't tried yet.
Okay.
But anchovy, I want to say it had strawberry and a few other weird flavors, and we did an IPA with it, and it didn't taste bad. It just tasted weird, and I
Okay, like
just
would it be more suited for a sour sort of beer, do you think, instead?
anything where the hops didn't stand out.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, fair.
I do IPAs with hops that I want to learn about because I really want to add a lot of it, and I really want to taste it and smell it, and
Yep.
yeah, it wasn't we could have drank it, but we just wouldn't have enjoyed it. It was just weird.
Yeah.
The other one, which I apologize if anybody likes it, but I think I think I know why I don't like it, is Holotar, if I'm saying that right, middle
Hallertau is
fruit.
what is how we say it, but yeah.
Yeah, the original Holotar tradition and those I like. I have no problem with those. I like those a lot. But the middle fruit, if I'm saying that right, it's a variant of the Holotar.
Hmm.
I was kind of forced to brew a batch with that, and I didn't like the recipe, and I didn't pick the hops, and I didn't care for the beer, which already gave me a bad taste in my mouth. And then I brewed with it again recently, and it has a weird aroma or flavor. I'm not 100% sure. And I looked it up, and one of the things that's described as is lavender. I can't
Mm.
stand lavender.
Yeah, fair. That's definitely why you don't like it then.
We go to a lavender shop sometimes, me and my wife, and I sit outside.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. For me, it's I'm actually I'm not. I mean, you could say allergic. Yeah, you could say I'm allergic to the scent of lavender just because it triggers my hay fever and that sort
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff. So
your your
yeah,
your body does not tolerate it well.
no, definitely not. If it was in a beer, at least the scent or the aroma, I wouldn't know what it would do to me, but we can find out. And my final question for you, Mike, is what's next for yourself and for Bitter Reality Brewing?
Um, One of the biggest things I want to do is start doing more experiments again. I've already
Mhm.
got some lined up. And probably I'll give you a couple ones. First, I did a top 10 tips, tricks, recommendations. I've been watching those, and people really watched them heavily when they came out, and they've
Mhm.
gone so far down that nobody seems to be really watching them, minus a few. There's a few that are very popular. But I was still rather new in YouTube. Every year you feel like you learned so much, almost like going from a 14-year-old to an 18-year-old. You're like, man, I was dumb. Um,
Yep.
so I'm looking to redo all of those, and do a top five instead of a top 10
Okay.
and get a little bit more attention to them while keeping the videos slightly shorter. Um, I'm also writing them out to get them heavily documented.
Mhm.
I've got some things I can't talk about right now that I'm
Of
working on,
course.
but it's going to pair well with that quite
Mhm.
heavily. And hopefully there'll be people out there new to brewing or people who just didn't know and it'll help them. But currently I have 500 documented things, and I've even eliminated a few that have now been
Sheesh.
considered myths.
Yep. Wow.
Um, the other thing I got invited, which she won't see this until late January, I will spend a week in January at a beer related event. I was invited to work a day, an hour and a half a day, and then I get to hang out.
Oh, nice.
And for all the people in Australia,
Hmm.
the majority of the money I spent this year on Christmas for myself
Hmm.
was all Kegland primarily, minus some malts and a few other things.
Nice.
Um, I have a lot of Brewzilla viewers, but I have never brewed with a Brewzilla, and they have not.
Ah.
The 220s have not been on sale in over 2 years. So I bought a 4.1 Gen, which I have not announced on my channel, but
Okay.
and I bought every single accessory I could humanly think that, or
Yep.
necessary as key is called some of the
That's a
items
great
pretty
word.
much.
Yep.
The heat exchanger. You kind of need this because we found a problem. Oh,
Yep.
the poly or the Euro, whatever the jacket. You kind of need
Yeah.
this to maintain temp well. I'm like, okay. But we're gonna do a lot of things with the Bruzilla next year so that I can help get those viewers a little more engaged and
Yep.
hopefully let them know I can relate to them too. And I will be able to relate because I'll be learning and maybe they'll help me along the way because I love it when a viewer jumps in and mentions something either I didn't know or I forgot.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is getting back to my roots and doing a lot of experiments. I have one right now that I'm still debating about, um, where I'm going to use six without giving it away because I always feel like if another YouTuber sees it, they might want to try it before I get it out, and I'm a little
Fair.
slow sometimes.
Yep.
But there is one I am literally going to brew the same beer, and I can't remember if it's 5 or 6 times because I can't remember how many variations I have.
Hmm.
Where I'm going to brew the same beer with a slightly, it's all going to have the same malts, but one of the
Yep.
malts is from a different source.
Gotcha.
And
Yep.
I feel like it may have a variation in flavor and aroma because the sources are very different.
Mm.
Um, and I want to see what happens. That's one of my experiments. I had an experiment I hope to do again that I did not release.
Okay.
Um, I have found that some bacteria, and this is good for all home brewers, I found some bacteria when you're trying to do a natural kettle sour will take only a couple points of your OG and get
Hmm.
you where you want to be. And then
Yep.
there are a few of them out there that are very expensive that will eat all the sugar.
Yeah. Yep. Wow.
Can give you non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely not what you want. I mean, unless
That's
you're
that's the
going
biggest
out
thing.
of your
Getting
way
back
to
to
create a
experiments.
non-alcoholic beer, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the experiment videos do usually very well. I love doing them. I learn other people learn, and I find other people out there have done some similar experiments, and they will jump in and add more information, almost to the point sometimes I feel like doing the experiment twice, just
Yeah.
so I can add their variations into that experiment.
Yeah. Wow. That's that sounds honestly, that's first of all the longest answer that I've had for that final question, which is great. You've got so much.
Sorry.
No, no, don't be sorry. You've got so much going on, and I can't wait to share, that journey with the viewers and followers. So therefore, everyone, be sure to head over to Bitter Reality Brewing on YouTube. The link will be in the description below. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Deezer or wherever you get your podcast fix, be sure to go over to YouTube and search Bitter Reality Brewing. You literally will not regret it. Trust me. I want to thank you very much, Mike, for your time today and have a great holiday period and a safe and happy new year as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time, and hopefully everything goes beautiful over there. I don't know what happens if y'all do you do Christmas too? I would assume you do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep.
I know you don't do Thanksgiving, and we just have that
No, we
just
don't.
before Christmas.
But yes, we do have Christmas, but it's summer in Christmas. Like
Summer.
we
Yes,
don't
I
we don't
always
we don't
remember
get.
that because I see Pierre in jackets during my summer. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was very, very happy to be invited by CJ to do the interview. Haven't done that. And hopefully anybody who's really interested in Bitter Reality Brewing learns a little bit more of where I'm coming from. Kind of just very down to earth, and I screw up and learn just like every other home brewer out there. Cheers. Appreciate you.